Okay, I just wanted to uh, let my children know that, which they may never know, that Buddy referred to me as his sister. He and I both were um, lone kids. We had no brothers or sisters. And let me take these off. Uh, so anyway, I guess I think I might have said when I went to get him dog food off the trucks how I met him.
I believe so, yeah.
Anyhow, I went to my cousin's once a month. And yes, I remember I did say that, and I think the kids know how I met him uh, through my cousin. Wanted me to hear him sing, and I thought he was just somebody.
And why don't you tell, if you feel comfortable, his first and last name that way?
It's Buddy Davis.
Buddy Davis,
and
okay.
he is the one who ended up, when he was at home, I met him at about 17 years old. He was still in school, and he lived down the road from my cousin, and he did like taxidermy.
Okay.
And he mounted, I don't remember, it was some small animal, real, I don't know what now, I don't remember. And then he built and carved out a totem pole, probably 10 feet high, and it would probably be that big around. And so anyhow, I would never have thought that he would end up where he was. So I think I said his mom and I took him different places to perform, and so he ended up being really good then. And he, of course, as he grew older, he got better and better. And so his mom and dad, I would be there and take her with me when I took him places. And so anyway, he ended up being, which I don't think I've said, I might have, the one who makes the dinosaurs at that creation museum at the border of Ohio and Kentucky.
Okay.
It's a creation, and then they built the ark after that. So he was, he tricked me, I think, to get me down there. And he wanted to know if I would come down to visit the creation. And I'm glad I went. I told him, I said, I don't drive that far anymore alone. So anyhow, I had a gal from the church, and then another friend who used to rent our little house. They took me down there, and we got in this one station. Of course, he sang, he produced, he was like into archaeology, really big, and he'd been to Canada, to Australia, all over with that kind of a thing. And then he sang at the museum, and he had me to stand up and said that if it hadn't been for me, that he would never have be where he was today. And just shocked me. But I think he might have tricked me to get me down there. So anyhow, it was quite hard. He got COVID, and then he got better. Oh, he almost died though. And his best friend, who was a preacher at up around Coshocton, I can't think of the name of it right now, but anyhow, I knew him, and he used to want me to help him. But I said, I got family, I can't do all this, So anyway, Buddy ended up, he got better, then he had a stroke after that a little while, and then he couldn't talk, he couldn't sing or nothing. And so anyhow, people just loved him. It says on a paper when he passed. He just passed last year, and it's the man. There was 3 people who owned that. Kenham out of Australia is one of them, and Buddy introduced me to him personally one time, and he he said that they were going to, at the funeral, that they come and got me and took me to the calling hours, and then one of those other ladies come and got me and took me to the funeral. And so anyhow, they, at the funeral, when Ken Ham spoke, he said that they were putting a shrine at the museum for Buddy and Kay. That was his wife. She was a right-hand person. So it's not going to hurt me to mention those names because everybody knows them anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. You don't have to worry
And
about
on the
that.
brochure, it said, Buddy's everybody's buddy. And that was true. So I've got music here of him, and gave me some of his recordings and so on. So that's basically about Buddy.
Well, since you've said his name, maybe some of my viewers will check him out and listen to his stuff.
Oh, hey. I mean, he amazed me. And then there was more than that he did in the background. He wrote children's books. I mean, I'm just so proud of him. But anyhow, that'll take care of that. Then I wanted to jump back to that willow tree, and actually, it just reminded me of something that happened. I probably was probably around 12 years old or 13, 12 probably. I'm just going to guess that's about the age. And this, excuse me, this neighbor girl who lived down where the Martin, well, I don't know what you call it anymore, but Marilyn
the
Martin
Martins,
used to
yeah.
live there. Which now she is one of my best friends. But anyway, they built the pond. Let's see, the Martin house would have been right over here. And then out here quite a ways, you could walk to it. They built this big pond. And of course it's been there for all these years, and my husband Ralph put a lot of fish in there. There's probably some mammoth ones in there by now.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we were allowed to fish in there at the time. But before that, when I was about 12, we were forbidden as kids to go around that pond. We weren't supposed to be anyways near it. And then the girl that lived there, her dad told us they had a wheat bin. And we would visit one another's houses sometimes, and he told us that we could play in the wheat. Of course, we covered up with it and all that stuff, if we didn't get dirty shoes or anything in there, because the animals had to eat it. So she had a mean streak. She done another thing to me once too, but she'd say, "I'm a doctor." Be real rough. So anyhow, that was other time. But anyhow, this particular time, we would walk up and down through the field to her house from my house, or vice versa. So anyhow, this one day, it was cold like, and I had on this wool heavy long length coat. And we got down there by that pond, and she pushed me in. And I had this dog named Old Penny. She was like a one that herds the sheep and all that kind of thing. Sort of like a shepherd dog. And so anyhow, that dog used to protect me from the neighbor kid. He always teased me, and that dog would not let him in our picket fence. She let all them other siblings in, which was like about 4 or 5. And of course we had, we didn't have 2 cars then or nothing, so we would have a record player and dance and have at my house usually, and we would have, pizza wasn't a thing then. So we would have snacks and stuff and have a good time. But anyway, this dog wouldn't let that one, I called him Runt, in. He stayed out. Well, she would grab me by the garment I'd have on, or by my wrist, and pull me away from that runt, and she wouldn't let him in. So this day, that pretty much saved my life, I'd say, because she shoved me in, and that heavy coat started soaking up,
Sinking.
and that dog heard me yell it, and she grabbed me by the wrist and gave me my balance, and I got out. And so we started then to walk. She walked me home, but she would only walk me halfway. She knew she was in trouble. So I don't remember how the outcome of that come, but I don't know if I remember playing with her much after that.
I wouldn't have played with her either.
It isn't funny, but...
It's certainly not funny because you lived.
Yeah.
That would have been a horrible tragedy. The world needed you.
I just can't believe that she was acting that stupid.
Kids are mean. It sounds like they were even mean,
Yeah,
70 years ago.
And then we're going back to old Penny. Mom and my dad worked away all week and was home on the weekends only, and then we'd have to take him to the railroad depot where I met Ralph, and so on, and 62 and a half years later, we were together until he passed, and that was with, the kids already know this, Alzheimer's, but that's not children. He fell, he had a rocker recliner over there. Well, about 2.5 weeks ahead of that, he came out of the bedroom, and I had these plastic totes full of stuff to give away, and I had never gotten them out of here, so he fell between the counter and the table out there, and on those totes, and he just, like nothing ever happened. There was no marks on him, no nothing, so I helped him out of there, and that was it. So I never thought anything more about it. So then I remember he's all out of the blue one day, he staggered and kind of went this way out of balance and fell over there on the floor, right over there. And I didn't understand what was wrong, and he got up and was fine. And then about 2.5 days before he had to go to the hospital, he was getting out of his rocker. He'd scoot out, and then he would roll. And I remember I had a love seat here, and he would roll across the floor. And then he would, I don't know what made him do that, he would try to pull the skirt off of that love seat. And see, that's been...
Maybe he was trying to get to something to pull himself up off the floor.
Evidently. But on one day, about 2.5, well, it was just a few days before, he pulled that planter right there off. It's got marbles. It's on the table there, right here.
This one?
Yeah, and it's got those heavy marbles in it. And he pulled that off, and it hit his head. No marks again. And the kids came in and walked him to the bathroom. And from then, he started, declining. And so I had to take him to the hospital. Well, the squad came, one of the granddaughters and husband came and took him to the hospital in a squad, of course. And they come out and told me that, how was it? They did an x-ray, of course, and then they asked me if he had fallen about 2.5 weeks ahead of that. The crazy thing is how technology pinpointed almost the exact time.
Did he have a bleed of some
yes.
sort?
Where he fell, he had 2 places.
On his
probably
in his head?
One there and probably one there.
And a brain bleed?
Yeah, right. And so anyway, they said that they was going to try to do surgery, and then they came back out and told me just really fast that they couldn't do anything because his, his stamina, what would that be called?
Well, they were probably afraid to put him under anesthesia.
Yeah, because something was way too low.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, they said there's nothing they could do. So that's how all that happened. But it wasn't Alzheimer's that got him. It was the falling and the brain thing.
So if you smack your head, what do?
Uh,
You got to tell the doctor.
yeah.
100%. Because if you let that go, it could be much bigger than you think.
Well, yeah. See, there was no symptoms and nothing, only him acting stranger, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I didn't mean to get on to that part, but anyhow,
No,
that kind of completes that, except unbeknownst to me, the kids told me I was in depression. I said, I am not. And so anyhow, that went on for approximately 6 years.
Well, before you go too far, why don't we kind of talk about how our stories intersected? Because that was right around that time.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, my family has known you for
over
your whole
50
life.
years, yeah.
You used to work for my great grandmother, right? Grandma Randall.
It'd be just your grandma, wouldn't it? No, it would be great-grandma.
Great-grandma.
Yeah. Yeah, Della.
And you were my aunt's Girl Scout troop leader, Aunt
Yes,
Jackie.
Yes. I was going to cover being a scout leader.
Do you remember when you had the dream about her drowning?
Oh, my gosh, yes.
You want to talk about that?
Well, my daughter Sharon and then this, well,
Jackie. You can say Jackie. She's gone now. She passed away. So.
I know. So anyhow, they were like two peas in a pod in school. And so that Jackie, well, Helene, which was the grandma.
My grandma,
Yeah. So anyway, this one day, they was going to go to swimming. And I'm not a superstitious person, but something happened there. And I had this dream that night before, and that Jackie almost drowned. And, or I'm not sure, and then of course you wake up. Well, when Helene came that day, she had going to pick my Sharon up to go take them somewhere. And I said, oh, Helene, do not let Jackie go near water. Do not let her do it. She said she can't. She broke her arm or wrist.
Yeah.
Ooh. And so, see, I didn't think anything about that, but until maybe even right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyhow, you want me to go on with you?
Sure.
So anyhow, I didn't, well, I say this, I tell a few people about this, the little girl, because they'll ask who you are, and I'll say she was Randall's family. But anyhow, I laugh about your dad. When I went to down in Joe Fred's. I have to tell this because I'm so glad he told me. I never dreamed about anything like this. And so anyhow, he told me that when he was a little boy, which he would have been, my goodness, probably 3-4 years old even when he'd been around at birth when I would have. And so anyhow, he told me that he would say to his siblings, we're going to the Raisin Lady's house. We're going to the Raisin Lady's house. And I got so tickled about that, but it's so sweet.
Yeah, he thought you looked exactly like the lady
And
on the raisin box.
I didn't remember, so I went and bought some, and I did.
You did.
I did so much.
That's who he thought you were.
Yeah.
And he loved raisins.
Well, I used to give them in those little boxes to my little boy. Of course, I didn't have the other kids. Well, I had Sharon, of course. No, not back then. That was way back. So anyhow, I evidently was giving those kids raisins in those little boxes. And my little Bob, he used to say, I want some buggies. I want some buggies. so cute. But anyhow, back to the other. When Ralph passed, went down on the business about him, and when I started out the door, the undertaker man, I don't know if I should mention his name, but anyhow, he said, did you hear about the little Randall girl? And I said, no. And he told me, and I was going to croak. And of course, see, she had pulled the TV off at 3 years old, and it killed her. And that's what he told me. And I just, it was unreal to me. And of course, I had a problem with Ralph yet, and so I did go down to the calling hours because of Jackie and all the others and your dad, Jeff, and but I'd never met you. I didn't even know your name. I'm going to end up crying.
It's okay.
Because it's just overwhelming yet.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way that it wasn't a God thing.
Yeah, not a coincidence.
And if I'm incorrect, you tell me, but I went to the calling hours, and I guess I shook your hand, but I still didn't even know your name yet. So I got situated from that a little bit, and I don't know where it came from. I suppose the Lord. So anyhow, I went to your door, and you were wrapped up. It was March, and it was chilly, and you came out all wrapped up in this big comforter, and of course I thought you was in shock.
I was.
Well, about the girl too.
Yeah.
But you said that you'd had a dream.
I did. I had a dream about 3 days before you came, and I remember it was February 22nd was the night I had the dream, and the only reason I remember that is because it was, when I wrote it down, it was 222 was the date.
Oh.
So I remembered the night that I had that dream. And I think it was just a couple days before you came. I had a dream now my grandmother had already passed away. We lost her right after Veda. We lost Veda in April, and your husband in April, and then we lost my grandma in May. So my grandma had already passed, and I dreamt that you brought her to me in a van. There was 3 or 4 of you ladies, and you and my grandma both had brown hair, and I never in my life saw my grandma with brown hair. She was gray ever since I was born. But when you guys got out of the van, you had real dark hair, and you had it all teased up in a beehive. It was real high it was really cute. It was really high on your head, but it was you. And in my dream, you were driving, and you drove her to me. And my grandmother and I stood in the carport, and we danced.
Yeah, I remember.
And there wasn't music, but we danced, and I got to hug my grandma. So when I was standing there talking to you, I was in total shock at how you came, because I dreamt about you before you came. And of course you looked older, but I knew it was you. So when you started talking, the first couple minutes, I didn't hear a word. I was just in such shock. I was trying to figure out what was going on. And of course I was still laying in bed grieving my daughter every day.
Yeah.
So, but I was in such shock that it was you, and I just knew that God sent you. But you can finish. You came to the door.
And I told you the history of how much how long I'd been coming there and so on, and to your grandma's house, actually.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time there. And so anyway, now see,
You gave me a book.
oh, that's true. And see, I had not, I give those quite often to certain people, not, you know.
Come here, sister.
So anyway, in that book, I always outline different things that.
And you know what you outlined in that book?
Well, I don't. You had told me later that you didn't open it for a while.
I didn't. It took me a long time to read it, but I kept walking past it, and God kept telling me, "That's here because you need it. Pick it up. Pick it up." He kept whispering in my ear, "Pick it up." So I picked it up and I went outside and sat in the hammock. And I flipped through it and opened a page, and you had highlighted the first Bible verse that my Grandma Randall ever taught me. And it was, Jesus said, "Let the children come." And that's the very first Bible verse she ever taught me. And so in my dream, you brought my grandma to me, but in real life, you brought back the basics to me and what my grandma needed to tell me.
Well, I just, I mean, that's the part that just, I mean, it just floored me, and I'm sure it did you too,
Yeah.
really. And so, from that, things have advanced, and I tell once in a while they want to know who all comes here. You know, some of my people I don't see often. And I tell them, and then I will tell them the partial story about what happened, Beta, and so on. And then about you when I was in rehab. The very night I went from the I guess you call it the hospital over to the rehab place.
Mm-hmm.
I got your phone call, and you were telling me, you found me. I found you.
I came here and I couldn't find you, and I was so worried.
And so anyhow, and then of course, the kids was going to try to, where I had been, I would call it a clean hoarder. There was a few things that I didn't realize. Of course, that could have happened after I left, you know. Like the mouse got in and so on the counter, but that wasn't there before I left. So they evidently wanted to take over. So anyhow.
Got any tissues?
Oh, you'll probably have to go in this bathroom, and it's up on a rack on the back. And it's on the bottom, so you'll have to pull some out. Behind the door.
Oh, okay.
I do too. So, yeah. That's fine. I just need enough to. My nose starts running sometimes.
It's okay, and I got a stack over here for you.
So, let's see. I forget where I was now. Oh, I know where. And that's normal for me
That's okay.
when I got all this stuff. And here I ain't even half used. So anyhow, when I was in rehab, from the, I call it clean hoarding, and I guess that's what people do sometimes.
Well, when your house is feeling empty, it's not as noticeable if you fill it up with stuff, and that is very common with grief.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So anyhow,
come here, baby.
I denied being in.
Come here, she's
Go on.
fine.
Be okay.
She's doing her interview. Be famous.
So I decided that, or they decided that they would come in and sort things out, and well, before I left, it got really cold and the water pipes broke, And so I had this dishes full in the sink. Couldn't do them. I had no way to do them.
And you couldn't get out to the trash bin to take the trash out.
No.
You were just in a pickle.
Yeah.
And God was like, nope, we're going to fix this.
Well, he sure did. And I'm telling you, there'll never, ever, ever be any way that I could ever thank you or my kids for what you did here. There's just no words for it. And so anyhow, I finally at the 3-year mark called Jody on the phone and told her, I guess you were right. I did admit, I didn't even realize it. And something happened, I don't even know what, that I became reality.
Was it taking the chair out?
No, they done that while I was in
While
rehab.
they were cleaning?
Yeah.
Because I remembered you saying that was kind of an epiphany for you too.
And then you came and took those dumb dishes and some though that I couldn't do and whatever. And then I have told people how you clean houses for a living, and you came in here and you done curtains, didn't you even? And
oh yeah, we spent
everything.
Yeah.
Floors, curtains, just everything. And see,
Well, you deserve it.
Well, I don't ever think about stuff like that with me, but it's just been a blessing. So anyhow, I want to put a nail in this one. Consequently, you're still coming every Tuesday almost, and sometimes more. And I know you've got a life of your own, so I don't expect a bunch out of you. If I need you, I know you're there.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would call you. But now, you're extended, you and your whole John, and I can mention that, can I?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Audra, your extended family. And that's written in stone. So anyhow, it's just that I've learned to love you like almost, I don't know if I better say completely, because I have to say the word almost like my kids, and it's real close.
Yeah.
I mean, it's close enough that I feel like this morning, I'm going to say what happened. You know, that didn't even bother me, and I'm really sometimes funny about things, but of course I'm not seen about everything anymore, so I don't worry too much. So
I feel like once you see one man and one woman naked, you've seen them all.
That's crazy. So anyway, I think probably that, I don't know if there's anything else about that or not. I think that.
No, I just thought that was a good spot to.
Yeah.
Because people haven't really been sure how our stories collided, but that was it.
Yes.
And then you can go on back to tell whatever you wanted to talk about today.
Well, I guess I hadn't planned on this part, but there, no wonder I couldn't find that one, it's hidden. It's about, I guess it started way back when I was a kid, my church affiliation. My mother was, her and another church lady, they had this ladies group all these years. And of course that would have been back in the, I don't know what year, way back in the 40s at least, maybe more. And my mother, of course I was an only child, so my mother used to take me to all these meetings once a month with her. So then that's where I imagine all that started, because
you saw fellowship.
Yeah, and then like I said, I was baptized at 15, and I'm still going to the same church 80-some years later. And so anyway,
And you helped my daughter decide to get baptized at 15.
Oh, that's true.
And she got baptized at the same church that you got baptized at.
So
And I think that's pretty awesome.
That is true. See, I didn't think about some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I really am so proud of her too. And you are back on groove. And I hope if what happened recently with that church, I hope that you find another one that's a good Bible teaching church and not a wishy-washy thing. Because I'll get after you if I find out you're going there. Because some of them just tell you what you want to hear, like the politicians, and then do what they want to do after they get you there.
I've seen.
Yeah. So anyway, so then, of course, I'm just going to go with what I feel. Of course, in the meantime, I'm getting married and having my children, which has been, all of that was a wonderful time in my life, each and every one of them. I remember when my first kid was born, my son, I kissed the doctor. I was so happy. And so anyhow, Dr. James F. Morton delivered all my children. Of course, he'd be gone by now. And so, of course, I'd be on their birth certificates, because they need to know that stuff. And I don't want to forget later to give a little bit of the family history. I'm not ready for that quite yet.
That's okay, we can do that.
Because I wanted to try to get down there to well, I guess I don't have to do that, to the cemetery.
I can take you down there anytime.
But I just was wanting to see the year that my grandpa and grandma were on my dad's side.
Yeah, we can do that. I want these videos to be around for kids that haven't even been born yet in your family.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be good for them to know stuff, about your history.
So anyway, we had the youth group at church, and I was always, that's before I got married. I seldom ever missed that. And there is something there. The neighbor kid guy, of course, I'm getting 14, 15, 16 at this age, and I was never allowed to date until I was 16. That was a hard set rule. So anyhow, the neighbor guy up on the hill, he had, let's see, 1, 2, I don't remember if that runt went to church or not, but the girls did. So anyhow, he would take them all, plus pick me up and take us to he was a little older than us, 2 or 3 years, and he would take us to the youth groups, and then he didn't stay, but he would come back and get us all. So then it got to the point where he started dumping them all out and just taking me home. And so it had gone on, and he was one of the ones that would come in and when we'd have those little party things, and I remember he liked cream soda. And so anyhow, eventually, we also, in that same room where Ralph and I courted, like you might say, he got more intimate with me. I could tell he was falling in love with me. But there was something that I just couldn't get past. Well, this one day, been doing that for a long time, and I did like him, but I didn't think I could ever marry him. And for the reason I'm not going to say. I mean, it wasn't him, it was other reasons. But it involved him. That's how I'm going to say it. So I remember that he started dating a nurse. And of course they're both gone now, but anyhow, he finally ended up, after I got married, he married her. And he did come to my house once after marriage, but no, it was just like a friendship.
Yeah.
And, but I remember this one time in particular, he brought me home. We were sitting in the driveway talking and so on. He said, there's this, there's this song I want you to hear. And he said, oh, and he had already told me that if I would date him, he would not date her anymore. That's before they got married. And the song was, don't fool around with calico when you got silk at home. I tell you. And then another time, when I was allowed the first time from the homecoming in Frazersburg, I was homecoming queen, and I loved the square dance in the street. And my dad was strict. He didn't want me to even do that. And my mom coached him into letting me, which, but again, I could have gotten in trouble because there's this big, tall guy. I know his name to this day. And him and then this other, I would call her now a loose girl. And they went out and they parked with me in the car. And that guy was from New Lexington. And here, I come to find out later, he was handsome, tall, black, curly hair, really slim. Not skinny, but
He was probably a dog.
Yeah, yeah, he had to be. So I said, finally they parked, I said, take me home. And they did. Otherwise, I would have had to be like a tiger.
Yeah.
So anyhow, they did. And, but that girl, I can't believe she was dating a married man. I found out later, the one that was with us. I didn't know that. I wouldn't even have been in that car.
Yeah.
And so anyway, and now I got to tell another story about me and my cousin. It has nothing to do with this one. But anyhow, I don't think I told it about a frog Loomis.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably gone now too, I hope. I can't help it. I won't mention the other guy's name that was dating me at the time. It was a while after. We were still in school, but had to be in that next year. And so I evidently met this guy at a ball game. I was a majorette, and that's probably how I met him. I don't know. And so anyway, and I remember all those names, but anyhow, my cousin and I, again, were like Jackie and my daughter. We always was together, and if I wasn't at her house, we'd walk over the hill. It would be a mile or two, I don't know, every weekend of the world. And
back then, it was worth it to meet a friend.
Oh, yeah, and so we would stay together, all that time. And even at school, we would run around together. So anyhow, this guy that he wanted to know if he could get a blind date for my cousin. And I asked her, she said, maybe. So she did. And I'm telling you, I teased her till the day she passed away, on and off. So anyhow, what happened was when my guy come to get me and we walked to the car, because I have a little sidewalk on the yard there. And as he got out to get, my cousin was getting in the car as he got out to go around and let her in. So she never seen him. So anyway, I said, I'll never forget the look on her face, and I don't know what I look like. I hope I didn't show the shock. But anyhow, my friend introduced him as Frog Loomis. And he was nice, but the thing of it was, he did look like a frog. He had big ears and a mouth sort of like a frog, and he spoke way down here. Oh, I tell you. I tell you, that was just so hilarious.
So what you're saying is, She didn't get a good look at him when
No.
when the boys picked you up.
Oh, no.
Okay.
She didn't see him till she hopped in the car, and he came around and got back in. I tell you, I was killer.
So she was stuck going on the date.
Oh, yeah. And like I said, I remember we drove to Zanesville and went to a Dairy Queen out in the area where not Pickens Aid, but that furniture store out in that area. So anyhow, that was something I had to throw in there, but it was so hilarious. Let's see. Then let's see. Oh, and I'm just going to go on. Then, of course, Ralph and I got married on September. Well, I don't think I told about when he asked me to marry him and all that.
Mm-hmm. You talked about the ring and how he couldn't wait. He asked you right in front of your dad. So you did talk about that. And you talked about getting married in 1953 after he came back from the war.
Yes.
But we didn't talk too much about your married life with him when you guys were younger. We haven't really touched too much on Ralph.
That would have been part of it. And I remember he had been single. He was about 7.5 years older than me. And I don't want to say this. He'd been single so long, he was used to doing his own thing, you know. And it takes a man a lot of times years to settle down. So anyway, it was probably 5 or 6 years later, I already had one child. I'm pretty sure I had one. Anyhow, if I did or I didn't, it don't make any difference. So anyhow, he would swim. That time he would run on the land, like called field trial dogs.
Okay.
And they would do basically the same thing as the coon on the float, only that, bark up a tree's called tree and
like
line,
AKC hunts and stuff.
Line and tree and that stuff. So anyhow, I didn't have Bob yet, because I would put up with that for quite a while, and it was partly my own fault. And I remember, so he bought me a brand new Ford Fairlane Bird Egg Blue as my first car. He bought that so I would have, but he was used to running, so he would come home, eat, and take off and practice these dogs until
run dogs
dark.
All night, yeah.
Well, just till dark usually. And then I got tired of that, and I tried to go after all the time up until Bob was born, and he was probably 1.5 years old. And I decided that I would try to go and take him go with him, because I didn't see him. He was gone a lot, and it was stuff that it wouldn't have to be, at least all the time, but I never complained or anything. So finally I just got a little tired of it, and I put a stop to it. I said, I'm feeling like a hat rack and a meal ticket. And so he was good about it, and we never, honestly, never fought much, but of course there for a while there was no time to fight. It wasn't there.
Right.
And so, which in a way, I am glad that we give one another quite a bit of freedom. He could do things he wanted, and I could do things I wanted, but it was probably a little too much.
Yeah, freedom.
Yeah. I mean, but after he retired, of course, that's a lot of years in between.
Yeah.
And he did stop being going all the time, he listened. And we hardly had any ups and downs. I can remember maybe 3 in all that 62.5 years.
Good. That's good. That's how me and my husband are.
Yeah.
We don't really argue much.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell about the time you decided you was going to church instead of to the dog races.
Oh,
Because
yeah?
that's one of my favorite stories.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh.
it just shows how fiery you were.
And see, I used to be so bashful.
Yeah.
And that would be hard for people to believe, but it was, like I told you about that pamphlet.
Mm-hmm.
And that wasn't funny. I felt terrible then. But anyway, now wait a minute. You want me to tell? Oh, tell me again. You want me to tell?
When Ralph was running dogs on Sunday and you finally had enough.
Yeah. Well, see, we had actually been to a race on Saturday night, and we didn't get home, and that's happened a lot. That was, I think, when we were swimming dogs.
Okay.
We moved over to the swimming. I was national secretary to the U.S., and he ran the races. And so anyhow, of course, I told about when we quit and that dumb man doping that dog and killing it.
I don't think you did tell that story.
Oh, I'll tell it again then, but I'll wait and do it. Okay, let me just do that one first, and then we'll go back to the other one. So anyhow, this man, there was a little float with a little cage on it, and them dogs would get into this like a horse thing, like a horse stalls for a race, and then at a certain...
A chute. I think that's what they call it, a chute.
Yeah, chute. And at a certain point, this dog would jump out of those boxes at a given signal. Well, normally they would get to swim and so on, but here this dumb man, because when we first started out, it was a good family sport, and you could take your kids and everything, and then it got worse. They got to betting on the dogs, and then which one would win and so on, first, second, and third, and then those would get money. Well, this dumb man from Michigan, old Slim Brown, I don't care about who, they know him or not.
You can out him. We're not scared.
Yeah, I don't want him. Mm-hmm. And so anyhow, his dog came out of the chute and died in midair. He had doped it. And I told Ralph right then, I said, I have to finish this year, but I'm done. So we both quit. And we never swam any or anything after that. And remember what I was going to tell before this again.
Okay.
That funny story. But anyhow, Ralph was really good at what he'd done. They were other people's dogs, but they would hook up with Ralph. And of course, I was there too. And we took Bob's son. He was the older kid. And so anyway, he didn't go to that one, because that was one of the crazier ones of the wilder
bunch,
people.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't dare go below this bridge at night, because you might be attacked by men, women or so. And I know that one time some woman went to the bathroom down there. Some man was on top of the roof of the toilet. And so I was afraid. And then that's where I got scared stiff once. I never thought there was such a thing, but I was scared stiff. So somebody followed us, that was in that era time, followed us into the woods, Ralph and I. Had to go to the bathroom, and I had heard that other story. And so we went in there, and pretty soon we saw this flashlight coming. And it would have been, oh gosh, we walked probably almost as far as that building over there to get out where people wouldn't be. And I was going to go to the bathroom back there, and this flashlight, we saw it coming. Well, we figured he was going to try to mug us or something, for money or what, I don't know.
Or who knows, because you were the secretary, they might have just...
That's
or
true,
because
too.
he was running dogs, they might have just wanted to take him out of the equation. You never know.
It's hard to tell.
People are shady.
So anyhow, I remember as he went in the woods, we kind of went behind this tree. And I told Ralph, I said, go as fast as you can. Well, he went first, and he got out of there, and do you know I could not move. I'd never had
Scared.
anything like,
You
I was
froze.
scared stiff.
Yeah, you froze.
So anyhow, in just a little bit, he went on into the woods, and I got them legs of mine going, and then did I go. And so we got out of there, and we don't know whatever happened to him. We slept in the car, so I put blankets up on the windows so he couldn't tell if we were in there.
Wow.
So anyway, but that place it just went more and more to pot. So anyhow, that was I don't think the kids ever, I don't know, but there is such a thing as being scared stiff. Now, what was back to the funny?
Oh, when you decided you was done doing the dog races and you was going to start doing church every Sunday.
Oh,
That's one of my favorite stories.
Well, what it was, we had still swimming the dogs, and well, we didn't quit every place. We quit that place because that was a bad one. So anyhow, I had Jody too. I had 3 kids. So anyhow, we didn't get into, which happened almost every time. We swim on Saturday night, and we wouldn't get in home, depending on where we were, how far away. We wouldn't get in until like 2 o'clock in the morning. Of course, the kids are still bombed out in the morning, but I just, and then I felt that they were tending more to his influence. I mean, which wasn't a horrible, horrible thing, but to me it was not good. And I asked him to go, and only Jody, of course, she wasn't her own thing at the time, and they didn't want to go. I said, okay, if you don't want to go, okay, you can just go to hell, but I'm not going.
I'm going to church.
I did. I took Jody and went. So anyway, that was that story. So, and then I guess then I might as well jump over to back to the church then. There was the ladies' meeting, and as I got older, I don't know how old I would have been when I started being the leader of that group. And each year they would vote for somebody, but I guess they
just wanted you.
Well, either that or they didn't want to spend the time sometimes, I think, that it involved. But I love people so much. I mean, I can, and just like I told my daughter the other day, we have a situation with somebody, and it's not, how do I want to put this? It's not, I can't even get the words. But anyhow, like, if they're doing wrong, it's not, we can't do anything about it, usually, you know. But it's not them that we dislike, it's what they did or do. That's how I guess I hope I put that right. But still the love is still there, you know. And that's just something else. But anyhow, somebody told me, well, I gave it up about a year ago because of the sciatica nerve on that cement floor where we did a lot of our cooking and dinners and so on. It just wasn't going to get it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And still I'm having trouble on and off with it. So anyway, I need another tissue. I don't know what I've done with the one I had. So anyway, it's okay. I stirred her up.
Mm-hmm. She thinks you're crying.
Oh, she might, yeah. So anyhow, somebody told me that I had been doing it since 1976. Well, that's a lot of years.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
And I don't know if it's that long or not, because I never paid any attention. I just did it. And then I have taught youth for several years, 5 or 6 years it was. Then my mother got the cancer, so I had to give that up, which I hated. But there's something wonderful happened from that. About 2 years ago, I had two young, well, I had several kids in the youth group, but I had these two young guys who were at their age into the Lord. Their families were. And, well, the one's still around here, and I see him once in a blue moon, but he knows that he's one of my favorites. And I shouldn't have had favorites, but I did.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one named Bill, about 2 or more years ago, we have at church on Sunday mornings meet and greet. So I was clear over on the other side greeting people that I didn't really know yet or didn't get to know well enough. So anyhow, this guy came up and gave me this big old hug, and I said, "Who are you?" and then when he started to tell me, he kind of smiled, and I knew immediately.
Mm-hmm.
He lives in Arizona, and we have rekindled. He came to find me. He came back for a while, and then in the summer he comes up here to Hanover. They have the parents' house, which he inherited, because both of his brothers are dead now. So anyhow, I just saw him, and I talked to him. He said, he's such a sweetie. And of course, he's married and got kids now, too, down there in Arizona. So anyhow, I told him.
Ooh, it's okay, sister.
I told him, I said, I talked to him just before Thanksgiving a while, and told him that I was going to get Judy to take me out there to Hanover to that restaurant, and then we were going to meet there because he lives close. And I told him why I didn't get there, that I having trouble. And he said, "Well, you just call me anytime." I said, "I don't think you want me to call you that often." Because I do think about him. I just loved him. And, of course, I loved his parents. They were good, jolly people.
You've become special to a lot more people than you realize.
See, I don't, like I say, I never think about that kind of stuff. So anyhow, there he is, and it's going to stay that way till I pass.
Yeah.
And he, anymore, I don't mind asking. I couldn't have done that 3 or 4 years ago, or 5 maybe. I've asked a few people if they're if they've been baptized and if they're a Christian. I couldn't have done that, but it's because I love them, and I want to be sure they make it.
Yeah. Well, Jesus ran on love.
Yeah,
so.
God is love. So anyhow, I had let's see, some of that stuff. Covered that, and I covered my mom doing the ladies' meeting. Sorry, I put that empty spot. So anyhow, there's just so many things, and then I'm going to jump. I may have to jump back, but I think I'm going to jump over now to, no, I'm going to save family history till later, because they need to know about who died with what if they know.
Yeah, we can do a whole hour on your history, what you know of your history, so that we can preserve that. We can save a whole day for that if you need to do some digging.
Oh, I'm going to jump back here to this swimming in the water. there was a lot of good years with that, and Ralph, as I said, they picked him because he was good with getting them a winner. And but we had to feed them vitamins, like B12 and different vitamins to keep up all that. Because see, the little one dog called Little Herbie, he was my favorite. He was like an overgrown sized beagle.
Okay.
And
was he a walker?
No, just a beagle. A walker
okay.
is a hound dog.
Okay.
And a hound dog is bigger. This little dog was, oh gosh, without his tail, well, with his head and tail, he wouldn't have been any longer than that. And about that big around, and with his head and all, maybe that tall.
Okay.
And now he's swimming against groundhogs. Oh, my land. He's swimming with greyhounds and these big dogs and big hound dogs. So I remember people would get mad about that, the other owners, because that dog was smart. And I babysat him once so nobody could get to him before the race in case they'd want to dope him after that dumb man done what he done. Well, I couldn't have been. It had to be before because we quit. But anyway, Little Herbie, he would, I don't know how he did it, but he was fast. And he would beat them dumb dogs. And even some would reach over and bite at him. And they finally had to put muzzles on them. But anyhow, there was more than one that he outswim them. And so there's a place called Hog Creek, I think is where it was, and they even went this long pond is what they swim in, man-made. And so Little Herbie, they put in wire. Went all that trouble for one little dog, so he couldn't beat him. Put that wire in there up both sides. And that little devil, he went in there, and he used it again him. He'd put his back, swim over to the side, put his back feet in there to give him a shove. And they couldn't beat him.
That's great.
He was the cutest thing. So anyhow, I wanted that. It was so cute. So that's, and then there was one called Old Yella. That was a good one too. Number one.
Do you remember what Ralph's favorite dog was? Just so the grandkids and stuff know.
Oh, I'm sure it would have been those two, Herbie and Old Yella.
Herbie and Old Yella.
Yeah, they had to be of that realm. Now, I don't know about hound dogs. We had them all our lives, and we would have 5, 6, 7 at a time over in the woods up there. And I know we had one poor dog that was retarded. I didn't know there would, I guess it happened. I never thought about that ever being something, you know. But it was a sweet dog. It just,
yeah, a little dumb.
You know, it couldn't help it.
Yeah.
It was a good, a nice dog.
Hey, everybody's got one of those in their family. We just love them anyway.